All right, we've had some questions in our class about task-centered learning and how it differs from problem-based learning. That's part of the readings for this week and part of the focus for this week. So I wanted to take a minute and talk about this, thinking about learning how to play piano. Hopefully this is something that many of you can connect to if you're had some experience maybe learning an instrument or learning piano itself. Piano is kind of the main universal instrument that many people try to learn. So thinking about this from a task-centered standpoint, you would think about what is the task first, right? You've got a centered task around everything, or task to center everything around. And so most likely you're going to think of playing a specific song as your main first task with learning piano. And so playing a certain song, let's say that's Ode to Joy, and it's a fantastic song. And it goes do 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 do. But of course, there's going to be other parts to the song and so forth. Well, from a task-centered learning perspective, then, an instructor would take a look at that and say, somebody needs to learn Ode to Joy. I'm going to go ahead and go backward now from there. And what do they need to understand in order to play Ode to Joy? And of course, they would go back and say, well, they need to know finger positioning. They need to understand the notes, be able to read the music that they're learning, and all of these different things. There's quite a lot, right? And you probably wouldn't start with Ode to Joy as your first task. You might start with just a basic song where you're playing the same note or a couple of different notes. That would be your first easier task. But that's what we talk about when we talk about task sequencing of tasks, or having a sequence of tasks that we follow. So the first task in learning piano is going to be very easy, and then you would gradually get to Ode to Joy, which is a more complex one, and then you would go beyond that, right? If you're going to learn to be a real piano concert master, you'll do more tasks after that, and that would include more songs that you would then perform. So if we look at the four elements of task-centered learning with this, we have activation. And so let's say a learner is ready to begin the task on Ode to Joy, that they've gotten to that point where they're ready to start learning this one. They have the background that they need. Well, activation then would activate learners' cognitive structures prior to learning. So in other words, we're going to tell them, okay, well, this song actually makes use of the different notes that you already know. And remember that you remember which notes are which in the music and so forth. You already know how to read the music, and you already have the understanding of these elements. But there's something new here. We're going to use maybe a sharp in the music that we have not used before. And so that's a new thing. We're going to help you understand this sharp. That's activating one's mental models, learners' mental models, is to kind of give them that background information that they need to know. Next is demonstration. So we're going to show the skills that are important and information relevant to the task. In other words, the teacher might actually show them how to use those sharps and flats that are new. In demonstrating, the teacher would show them proper positions for the different parts of the song. Maybe they need to go overhand, one hand going over the other to play a certain note, or maybe they need to show them how to do the bottom with the top hand and that type of thing. Maybe there's a relevant media that would, again, demonstrate the song, how it's played by an expert, if that's the way that the teacher instructs. Or the teacher, him or herself, could do that. So that's demonstration. Then application is the practice of the song, right? The learner would practice the song him or herself. The learner would have to try the song out while receiving. With task-centered learning, it says that you need to receive coaching, and you need to be, the learner or the instructor would help the learner to play the piano right and say, don't forget that sharp there. You got to make sure that you hold your fingers in the proper position in this place, and remember this transition. And then as the learner gains expertise in application, the instructor would reduce that coaching and feedback over time, and then require the learners to apply their knowledge to various tasks. And so that's kind of talking about, are there other songs that the learner might be learning at the same time, and practicing as well, and remembering that they should continue to use the proper piano technique as they do so. And finally, integration, have learners demonstrate their new knowledge and skill. So that one is an opportunity for learners to then take that skill to a new level. There are a couple ways I could think of this with piano learning. Like you could think about maybe having a learner not only practice in front of the instructor, but also practice in a piano recital. Not practice, but perform in a piano recital to other people. And that would be a way to integrate the knowledge a little bit better. Or maybe they find new ways to use their knowledge and skill. Maybe they add a little, what my friend calls doodly doos. You know, they add a little extra into the song that wasn't on the music itself, but they add that in and it sounds kind of nice as they add that to Ode to Joy. And so that's integration. And like I said, you know, task-centered learning means that you center learning on multiple tasks so that once they have learned Ode to Joy, they'll actually have another song that they might learn after that. So that's an example. I just wanted to be sure to share an example of task-centered learning and how that might be applied to an area of learning like piano.